Welcome back, my lords and ladies, to the Cast Beyond the Wall. We are your guide to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, analysis, and fan v fan debate on each episode of HBO's hit show, Game of Thrones. And this week, we're discussing the climactic episode 10 of season 6, The Winds of Winter. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and guys, guess what? I'm on a boat. Take a good look at me in my boat, yeah. Motherfucking boat, yeah.
When I saw that, I'm like, she has to be on the boat. She has to be on it at the end of this episode. And sure enough, we saw it. Now, whether or not she makes it all the way across the ocean, we'll see. It apparently took Daenerys no time. So
Gendry could still sabotage everything.
He could. He really could. I hope they find him out there, like dead or something in a boat, just like floating.
No, not dead. Have him still rowing. He's been like, I've been rowing for years.
He took a wrong turn.
He's like the old man in the sea. He's just like eating off this one giant fish forever. I am Aslukari, and guys, after seeing Cersei this week, I kind of want a dress. It was the coolest dress I've ever seen.
Austin, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't like Cersei as a person at all. But that dress, sweet Jesus, it was getting it was getting steamy up in House Masters. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Whew.
It had the pauldrons on it and stuff. Like she was going to go into battle. That was more armor on a female character than like most fantasy video games.
Oh no, undoubtedly, and it was not necessary at all. And it doesn't fit a motif she's ever worn, ever. But you know what? It looks
beautiful.
It looks beautiful is one way to put it. Yeah, it looks great. And she is now a vengeful woman without a cause. So we better look out.
It's kind of funny when you contrast that with Daenerys, who like wears next to nothing but actually kills people.
I don't know, man. Cersei just killed a whole lot of people.
She did, but you know, it's not like burning people with fire from your own hands.
Yeah, definitely not like burning people with fire.
I am Daniel Stoll, and this is easily the best episode we've ever seen because the King of the North is back.
Hey, Stoll, do we need a history lesson here? I think we do.
It's different this time. It's different this time.
That's what they said when that's what we said when Rob was like, Ned Stark died. It's different. Rob's gonna do things differently, and he did.
Okay, but this time it's different. This time it's really different. Okay.
This time he's not really Ned's son, so
exactly.
Oh,
as we found out in the episode too. So it is different.
What a twist! All right, ladies and gentlemen, this year we here on the Cast Beyond the Wall are podcasting along with our good friends and gracious host at the GoodTrash Media Network. I want to remind you guys, if you haven't heard of the GoodTrash Media Network, that it is a website dedicated to taking your experience watching TV and film beyond the screen and onto your listening device. Why? Because TV and film is so much more than just 90 minutes in a bucket of popcorn, or in this case, 60 minutes and a glass of Dornish wine. You can track all of our posts on the Cast Beyond the Wall on the GoodTrash social media pages at facebook.com/GoodTrashMedia or on Twitter at @good_trash. Boy, gentlemen, we have so much to talk about today. This was a game changer of an episode for sure. Beforehand, we had another listener email this week. Guys, I love our listeners. They're sending us emails. They send Austin gifts. I mean, like, what better listeners can a trio of dudes talking about Game of Thrones on the internet want? So this week's listener feedback comes from Amanda Hay. Thank you so much for the pronunciation guide, Amanda. Hi, guys. Just started listening after the suggestion from Dalton Stewart. He's a good friend of the show, regular guest host from GoodTrash Media. And I'm really hoping Dorne doesn't show up next episode. Whoops. I hope they are lost or missing in action like Gendry floating in the ether that is Game of Thrones. A few additional thoughts coming out of the Battle of the Bastards. I feel like the Starks just got their house back in time for Dany to swoop into Westeros and take it away again. I know when she arrives, she will consider the powerhouse as a main threat like Masters and knock people down a few pegs where if the Starks didn't return home, they could have maybe allied with her like Theon and Yara seem to have done. It'll be bittersweet to have her arrive and have all the excitement behind her until it is applied toward the family we have rooted for, that we've rooted for all along. Some thoughts on Jaime and Cersei. I think Cersei is getting pretty desperate and will use wildfire on the town, somehow killing Tommen on accident in the process, and lose her mind, which will cause Jaime to take her down Mad King style, or out like Mercy desperation because she won't be able to live with herself if her children are gone or out of the picture. Those are just some thoughts. Thoroughly enjoying your podcast. Thanks, Amanda. Wow. Amanda, she called it.
She did call it. We'll address the Jaime thing a little later, I think, because I have some thoughts on that in particular. But I do particularly like her idea of Dany treating the houses like the masters. I never thought of that before, but that's totally how she would view them. She would view them a lot like, I think she'd view things a lot like the High Sparrow did in some ways, only a little less religious, more about, there's all these powerful people holding the little people down, and I think she's going to try to free them. So I like that comparison. I think it's really good.
Yeah, do we need to give a call back to the speech she gave Tyrion last year about the wheel, talking about the houses and the game and on the wheel spins. He says, I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel, in reference to the houses that existed. So no, I think that's totally a thing. And I think that is a very Game of Thrones thing to do. Two of our heroes are pitted against each other due to circumstances and their conflicting worldviews. So I think that is most definitely going to happen. I think, we're going to get into this throughout the episode, but we are definitely going to be looking at a Daenerys v. Jon battle, hence A Song of Ice and Fire. So, Amanda, I think that's a great bit of feedback. And clearly, you read the writing on the wall here about a lot of this stuff. Some of the stuff that which was predicted on the show. Some of you laughed, and you teased, and you called us morons. Okay, actually, none of that happened. But Amanda...
Mostly I called Caleb a moron. That's what happened there.
It did. And guess who came out laughing? Yeah, that's right. I love being right. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. And hey, any of our listeners out there who want to keep talking, we bet this might be episode 10, but we've still got some time left to talk about Game of Thrones before we're taking a break, okay? Which we'll talk about more at the end of the show. But continue to send those emails to goodtrashgenrecast@gmail.com or hit us up on facebook.com/goodtrashmedia or on Twitter @good_trash. All right, gentlemen, I think we'll go ahead and get right to it and reviewing this week's episode, The Winds of Winter.
Are you prepared to stand trial and profess your guilt or innocence before the seven?
We need to trust each other. We have so many enemies now.
The Freys and the Lannisters send their regard.
What do you want?
I thought you knew what I wanted.
Tell him what you did to her. Tell him!
Are you afraid? Good. You're in the great game now. And the great game is terrifying.
The Winds of Winter, I'm just going to preface this, is actually the title of the impending book 6 that will come out one day. I believe it. Deep in my soul, we'll get book 6.
Never happening.
Book 6 will happen.
That book will come out when Half-Life 3 comes out. Which is
sad fact, Austin. Half-Life, the announcement of Half-Life Episode 2, Episode 3 was 10 years ago. We never saw it, ever.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think...
We also got an announcement of this book, but we're never getting it.
Hey, that was only 5 years ago. I need to remind you, it took George R. R. Martin a total of 6 years to write book 5. So there's still hope.
There's hope.
I think we get book 6. I'm not confident, however, on book 7. I'm very not confident about book 7. Very confident about book 6. But here, nonetheless, The Winds of Winter being the book that is eventually going to come out. So another case of the showrunners kind of borrowing from Martin's own writing. Well, let's get into it, gentlemen, though. What did we think of this week's episode? Daniel, we'll start with you.
I absolutely love this episode. I thought there was one scene that was a little weak, and I think that would be the Tower of Joy scene. I actually felt I didn't like that one as much, but every other scene I felt was really strong. I really liked what was happening. The music in this episode was out of this world fantastic. And that opening sequence with Cersei and the Sparrow and that whole entire sequence was possibly my favorite opening to a Game of Thrones episode, maybe ever. I thought it was just beautifully well done, and yeah, I really, really liked this episode. What about you guys?
You know, I got to disagree with you about Tower of Joy. I think it delivered exactly what we wanted.
No.
Overall, no. Go ahead, Caleb.
I mean, I'll get it. They held back information for the sake of holding back information. Now it's just annoying. They did what I was afraid they were going to do, which is they just teased us with more information. We got
confirmed exactly what we wanted to know.
No. The thing that they confirmed that Jon Snow was Lyanna's child. It's implied that Rhaegar is probably the father. Obviously, the father. Really. Here's the thing, though. What is interesting about that is not the what, it's the why. It's the deep tragedy that is Robert Baratheon, which is the cause of everything that happened on this show. And that's the part they whispered in her ear. I was like, wait, you're gonna tell? She probably whispered in Ned Stark's ear, "I loved Rhaegar dead." I'm just a little frustrated. But you're fine. We did reveal information.
I disagree with you there, but we'll talk about it. Overall, there's a few minor things about the show I thought was really. There's like one scene I thought was really dumb, and that was the Qyburn little kid stabby the maester scene.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was really stupid.
Oh,
but
okay.
Overall, fantastic episode. It's hard to say best episode of the season because I know people hate on this, and we have at times too. I think there are a lot of really great episodes this season, but it's got to be up there. It's so good.
No, I actually think this is the best episode of the season. I think this is among the best episodes of the entire show. Something we're going to talk about. We are going to have a season 6 wrap-up episode, and where we kind of address the season as a whole. And I do have a lot. And if you've been listening, I do have a lot of issues with a lot of shortcuts that have been taken in the writing this year. That said, those shortcuts led to a really amazing payoff. I don't feel like everything was necessarily earned, particularly with the Arya scene. I mean, what? Yeah, a lot of little things like that. We went back to Dorne, which was, kind of predictable. Everything, but God, the execution of the opening sequence in King's Landing was just incredible. I mean, that is definitely going to always be among of like one of those big epic, Red Wedding, Hard Home, Cersei's Revenge. Yeah. I don't know what you call it. Like it was, oh my God, what a sequence.
Well,
what a sequence.
So we hop right into that scene then?
First off, shout out to the score in this scene.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's where I wanted to start.
Oh so my God. Good. So good. I'm going to drop it somewhere in this episode, somewhere, either the intro or the exit. So keep your ears peeled. But man, that piano. Oh,
that I don't remember ever hearing piano in this show before.
As soon as I heard it, I wanted to buy it. Like I'm buying the soundtrack. Like I have to have that. It was outstanding.
But it was just kind of a little piano solo at the beginning, and then some strings come in a little bit, and the tension starts to build, and something's going to happen because it's really setting the mood. But you don't really know exactly what, and just the way it kind of continually builds up throughout that sequence, up until the actual explosion. Was just so good and so well executed.
Yeah.
This entire sequence here, just from an execution standpoint, was phenomenal. We can crap on Benioff and Weiss a lot for lots of various things, but they know how to execute on a good idea.
They do. They capitalized on, years worth of plot lines, all kind of coming together right here. The Dragonfire, which we knew that was laid out in season 2, back when Tyrion used it. If you remember, way back in season 2, he went down to this basement that we saw again here, where he talked to another Maester or something like that, where he showed them that there was wildfire underneath King's Landing. So, that was a seed planted a long time ago. Now, here's the question I have for you, gentlemen. And by the way, Austin, I'm not going to say I called it, but hey, Austin, I called it.
Look, I predicted at the end of the season Cersei would be dead. She's the only one still alive. So I got the exact opposite.
There's points for that. At what point did you figure out what was happening? Because even though I predicted it was going to be wildfire, it took me a minute. It took me to realize once I realized everybody she wanted dead was in one room, but it was right before Clegane showed up to Tommen. But there's a moment where you realize everybody that she hates is inside that room, and wow.
What I was thinking was, well, first of all, I heard the wildfire thing from you first, and then it started building up on Reddit, right? So that's always in the back of my mind now. Then we had the scene with Qyburn a couple episodes ago where he's like, you know that thing? Totally a thing. We talked about that a little bit. So that, to me, confirmed wildfire was going to take place. The second I knew it was going down was when the mountain stops Tommen. I'm like, everybody's dead. Everyone's dead. I didn't know exactly how it was all going to be executed or like how it would all play out exactly, but I knew everyone in that building was dead.
I literally looked over. I was watching with a few friends, and I said, guys, everybody in that building is dead. As soon as I realized what was going on, I was like, oh shit, everybody there is going to die.
After we talked about it, I definitely felt like wildfire was going to play a factor, but I never realized on how big of a scale it was actually going to be. Like, I didn't really see it going to the extent that it did. I thought that, she probably would try to kill the Sparrow, maybe the Sparrows, but taking out as many... Like, she didn't just take out her enemies, she took out just random bystanders, too. I mean...
Yeah, half the city. Yeah.
I mean, all those people who shamed her.
Right. I mean, it was genocide almost. I mean, it was... I never really fully... Until I actually saw it, I'm going to be honest, until I actually saw it, I didn't think that many people were going to die. It took me seeing it to believe it actually happening. So... I knew when Marjorie started getting really scared, that's when I really realized what was going on. I was like... I was kind of like with her, like, she's not showing up. It's really going to go down, and really, I think everyone's in danger right now. So it took me a little bit longer, but I was in the moment during that scene.
Well, I mean, and let's just go ahead and compliment, just the execution. I mean, you mentioned the score, but oh my god, the editing, the way you have Lancel Lannister chasing the kid and going down as soon as he went down to the catacombs, I was like, oh my god, this is really happening. Because I knew exactly where he was going.
That was the most genius, by the way, in the catacombs, the most genius medieval timer I've ever seen. I don't know why I've never thought of that, but it was great.
Oh god, and the way he crawled towards it, like he thought he was going to be able to put it out. Oh my god. And during all this, we should also say, I don't want to overlook this. A nice little touch in the scene is Loras is on trial, right? And he actually confesses. And then the High Sparrow actually backstabs Marjorie by carving the thing into his forehead. Just... a nice little touch to show that there was still some kind of backstabbing going on within that group, although they were all dead anyway. I just thought it was a really nice little touch.
It just showed the type of person he was.
Oh yeah, totally. I did also I actually appreciated the Maester thing, Austin. What about that didn't work for you?
It seemed very like they were going for shock value over what would actually logically happen. So why would you have a bunch of little kids stab this old man to death? It doesn't make any sense.
It was
way better. You Kingsguard, tons of other ways to do this, and you have a bunch of little kids.
Yeah, well, because that was the thing. Qyburn had recruited all the quote unquote little birds to help him out, and he just really built power. And for him, it's definitely an act of revenge because
spies, but not as army. It's just a weird thing.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was actually pretty effective personally, and I think the idea is Qyburn has been taking it from Pycelle ever since he's been on the show. And he's been very calm and collected about it. Now he's like, all right, revenge, dead. I don't know.
It seems strange to use children. I just didn't like the means by which they killed him.
Okay, I honestly didn't think it was shock value. I didn't read it as shock value, but hey, that's cool. We're allowed to disagree.
They don't really... Who else could have done it, though? I mean, you talked about Kingsguard, but the Kingsguard are on Tommen's side and not really answering to Cersei, really. So I don't know who else they could have used. The birds were really, the little birds or whatever, were really the only people I felt like they really had. And that's what, that's how they were able to execute the plan, even with Lancel chasing a little kid down to the thing. So I don't know. I felt like it worked really well for me.
Yeah. So I thought was kind of cool. Now, the reaction of Cersei, of course, after... as Daniel puts it, genocide. This really is genocide. She killed, 200 people minimum?
Based off of religion, basically. So yeah, you could definitely classify it as genocide.
Oh, definitely. She just sits up in the Red Keep, drinks her wine, and smiles. She is pure evil. I'm sorry.
I loved it.
Okay, it was pretty great. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
It was amazing. It was in one giant Michael Bay style explosion, took everything that was crappy about the King's Landing storyline and sent it up in flames.
The only thing it was lacking was Optimus Prime to show up for the day and kill the humans, because that's what he does. I thought this was like a Godfather. I mean, this really was a Godfather-esque move. You know, you take out all of your enemies in one fell swoop type of thing, and no one, they were all clueless that was about to happen. Now, the unintended consequence, of course, is that she sent the mountain up to keep Tommen in his room, but Tommen just watched everything he believed in and loved blown to kingdom come. And Cersei was not there to comfort him, so he literally was just in shock. His really hot wife just got blown up. His god just got blown up. He's by himself with the zombie guy. So naturally, he decides to take the swan dive.
You see, the execution throughout this whole sequence so good. So for that scene there with Tommen, when they show his face and then they cut to the window and you're seeing the smoke, it hangs there. And after the first second, you're like, that's a really long time for it to hang there. No, they're not going to do this. No, they're not. And then the third or fifth second, you see him jump out. Like, no!
He takes the crown off.
Saw it coming. It was crazy.
He took the crown. As soon as he took the crown off, I was like, oh shit.
It was so well done. So we talked about this a little bit, that Cersei is going to not kill her child, but her actions will cause her child to die. I thought he would just get caught in the crossfire of like the wildfire or whatever like coup she tries to do. But this, to me, so much more effective, so much more well done than what I had imagined.
Yeah, and I know Alex had predicted a couple episodes back that he would end up, that this type of thing would end up happening. She would do something so evil that would unwittingly cause Tommen to die, because, you know, in a sense of fate and irony, that is her literally destroying the last bit of humanity she has left, which is true. She did. She's now a woman she is a vengeful woman without any cause, with unlimited power.
Yeah, and I thought, I was sure that's how it would go down. I didn't think it would be suicide. Never saw that coming.
I didn't either, actually.
Until the moment right before. Even like when it was building up to it, it wasn't until they like hung on that window that I figured out what was going to happen. Stoll, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It was extremely well executed, and if I remember correctly, the music actually ended like right as that happened. Like the music, like you were talking about, the music building up. I think there's a little bit of a piece before that, and then it just goes silent right there. And when it happened, I was completely shocked. Like you said, like when it hangs there, you have this moment of, why are we still looking at this? And then when it happens, it's just like my jaw dropping. It was extremely well executed, and yeah, I mean, I was speechless after that entire sequence.
It brings a whole new meaning to King's Landing.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You monster! A kid just killed himself! A kid just killed himself! What are you doing? Oh god, King's Landing. Ouch. That's pretty tough landing, if you ask me. We'll talk about it later, but not really any kings left on the show, is there? Cersei, after getting revenge on everyone she hated, apparently saved what's-her-bucket, the shame lady with the bell, for herself, and leaves her locked in a room with Clegane. And you know what? This was the type of monologue. It wasn't very long, but it was a nice monologue, just capturing her state of mind. She's like, you know, confession under the right circumstances is quite liberating. You know, like, it's such a good it's not very long, but it's a nice little, she's having that back and forth with the lady, just talking about, and it just captures exactly where Cersei's head's at, and it's great. And God, it just goes to show this woman is pure evil.
But she also does a really good job of calling out their crap. Like, you enjoyed this too. You didn't do this because you believed in anything. You did this because you like torturing people, which I kind of believe that's how it went down too.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that sentiment as well, and I like, and really, this is her being very transparent about her feelings with Jamie, her her being transparent about her children and her actual beliefs. It's great. It's a great scene. We'll go ahead and move on. We'll come back to King's Landing here in a bit, but let's go ahead and move on to the Riverland. Okay, yeah, so Lord Frey, relishing in his quote-unquote victory with the Lannisters, and we get a really great back and forth between him and Jaime. And Jaime's basically like, listen, dude, you're the shittiest caretaker ever. If I'm Dumbledore and I got to come down here every single time to clean up a mess you fail, you're not even worth being the caretaker of of Westeros, okay? And it was a nice bit. And you also saw that Jaime's mind at that moment was still on Cersei. He had the other two girls that were hitting on him, and he said, no, not my type. And I love that Bronn comes back and says, not blonde enough for you?
Not blonde enough, yeah. I think this scene, I think it's really significant because it really starts to show, I think, his disillusionment with everything that he's been having to do. He doesn't really care much about Kingsguard or wars or much of anything anymore. To him, it's all about his family at this point. So you start to see he's reassessing his priorities.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. He's definitely questioning the worth of his job. And that's one thing I was very concerned with the storyline going down to with him going down to the Riverlands. Again, I'm not going to do the whole the books did this. Not going to keep doing that. But I will say, as a fan of the journey that character takes in the books, his entire arc through book 4 and 5 is again the disillusionment to the myth of family. The importance of family that Tywin and drilled into him so far. The disillusionment about his relationship with Cersei. It's all about him trying to establish his own identity. And I don't think this episode quite got him there, but it did take steps to forward that for certain, that we'll, again, talk about more here in a little bit. We'll move on to the next scene in the Riverland, and the twins, actually, which is Walder Frey starts eating some pie that his mysterious handmaiden brings him. It's not one of his handmaidens. He starts eating some pie, and he's like, where are my boys at? And she's like, they're here, my lord. What do you mean they're here? I don't see them. No, they're here. Like, right here. Oh, what? What's that? Your handmaiden baked your sons into a pie? Oh my God, that's disgusting. And then, wait, pulls the mask off. Mind freak! Arya Stark.
Well, and she's not just in Westeros randomly, like we didn't get to see her come over. She's all the way over in the Riverlands already.
Riverlands,
like,
yeah.
It's not like she's not like on the edge of Westeros. She's like all the way in, already. So
I don't know how many people out there have seen South Park, but it very much mirrors like the most famous episode of South Park where Cartman murders a kid's parents and bakes them into like a chili, I think it is. But that's immediately what I thought of.
Oh my God!
So when I saw like what was happening, I was like, "That's really weird. Did the Lannisters do this? Did Jaime coordinate this? It's kind of strange that he would do this." And then she starts pulling the mask off. I'm like, "Oh," but it still never even like crossed my mind that it was Arya. I thought, is that the waif? Is the waif doing this? I'm so confused right now. I don't know why. I never considered that Arya would be there doing this right now. But it was definitely the most surprising moment of the episode for me. This is one I did not see coming at all.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. This is where I call it shenanigans. That's dumb. Okay, that's just another example of them taking ginormous shortcuts. You know, last week how we were like, man, they didn't have an establishing shot for Theon and Yara making it to Marine. This week it's like, we're not even going to have an establishing shot of Arya making it to Westeros just because we want it to be a big surprise when she kills Frey. But holy crap, guys,
yeah.
How long did it take her to get to Braavos? And literally in 2 episodes, she's in Riverlands killing Walder Frey. What?
It has a mask for some reason. I don't know where she got that from. I assume next season we'll get a little explanation. Maybe not, honestly. Maybe they're just like, look, we got to get this over with. We got a lot of ground to cover. Let's move it along. They definitely took shortcuts here. It would have been better had they not, but I'm still kind of excited about where this is going, which brings me to my question for you guys. Edmure owns everything, right? Now he has the twins. He has River Run. He's the only heir.
Well, the way Walder alluded to it was that he had been put back in prison, I guess, which is
right. But Walder Frey's dead, as well as his two sons. So it's Edmure now, right? That's it.
Probably, yeah.
Which kind of changes a lot of things.
Oh yeah, it means they're on Team Stark all of a sudden. Probably.
I mean, you guys are right about the sloppy storytelling, but man, it was just so satisfying that I don't even care that it was sloppy. It was just so exciting to actually see that happen.
No, I'm not cool with that. And I'll say this again. I've said this every step of the way with Arya. Her brutally murdering people disturbs me. I don't think it's supposed to necessarily... I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be a big crowd-pleasing moment. If it is, I have deep-rooted issues with the show. Back when she killed Pulver, that was not okay. When she brutally killed... When she brutally massacred what's-his-bucket the night last year, that was disturbing. So the fact that she
Maren Trant.
Maren Trant, thank you. And then she kills Walder Frey in a pretty similar brutal fashion. I'm like, guys, I'm not okay with this. It's not.
No, that's the whole point. They even talked about it in their after the episode thing where they're like, look, Walder Frey had this coming for a long time, and I think everyone was hoping for revenge for the Starks against Walder Frey, but I think most viewers are going to be far more worried about how disturbed Arya is now and where she goes from here. That's exactly the point they were trying to drive across, and I think it came through pretty well.
I don't know. I want to argue that the minority of people are in my camp who think that this is bad. Most people are actually probably clapping. I'm pretty confident of it.
Your friends are weird people. Then that's all I got.
No. My friends are in the camp that says this is bad. I always think back to the people who watched Breaking Bad, the big mainstream audience that caught on to Breaking Bad, like when it got crazy popular in the last 2 seasons, who thought Walter White was a badass. No, the dude's a monster. It's the same people who probably were cheering stuff like that. Like they don't understand what the show is actually trying to say.
I'll put it this way: I never saw anyone excited about what happened to Walder Frey. I mean, people were like, "Oh, finally! He's dead. He's an asshole. He's dead," which is great. I felt that way, but how it was done, the way it was executed, and who did it, definitely was disturbing.
Yeah, you guys are right. That's definitely the point. I'm just excited that she's finally at that point where we can see it happening, if that makes sense. It's not supposed to be something we're excited about that she's actually killing him in this way, but it's exciting to see her character get there, and we're going to be able to talk about it now.
Exactly. It's the same way I don't like Cersei as a person, but I love what she did and where that story is going and what it does for the world as a whole.
I'm calling shenanigans, and that is a mark for me. That is a mark against the episode that Arya got over there so fast without any sort of build up and her ability to teleport.
That's fair.
That's a problem for me. Again, it's not the biggest problem, but it's the thing. It's just continue the trends of taking these shortcuts they've taken all season, and it's not okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to your favorite storyline, Austin. The only storyline that had a truly happy ending, which is Samwell making it to the Citadel. I had a very Harry Potter feel going into this. He's all like, "Yeah, I'm going to Gringotts to get my keys," type of thing, right? He goes up to the desk and, hey, I'm supposed to be the new Maester because this old Maester died, and the guy had the big goofy glasses like you'd see in a Harry Potter, like the Gringotts Bank or something like that. So that's the vibe I totally got off this scene. And then when Sam gets in, he's like a kid in a candy store. He doesn't know what to do. Oh my God, all the books, all the time.
I think it backs up what we had already thought about Sam in that he's never going to be a Maester. He's going to go to the library and find out something really important that everyone needs to know about the White Walkers. And he'll ride in and save everybody with all his newfound knowledge, which is dumb when we come off a scene where all these awesome characters get blown up in a fire and this guy is still alive sitting there. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I really liked this scene, actually. I thought that it was really good placement. I felt after everything that we had just seen in the opening sequence that we kind of needed a letdown, and I thought the scene was actually really funny with some of the conversation that was happening, where Sam even said, well, life is... what was the phrase he used? Life is interesting or something like that. And it was just like, it was such a generic line. I thought it was really funny. So I thought it was a really good placement. I thought we needed a little lighthearted scene. And then when Sam gets in there, I think Austin's right. I got kind of like a Library of Congress feel almost when I saw the library.
Doesn't it take like 30 years to become a maester? Dude has not got that kind of time. It's already winter.
Well, this is Game of Thrones season 6 logic, Austin. So 30 years or 2 episodes.
Where Varys, they have that like time compression chamber like Dragon Ball Z where they can just speed up time really easy.
Literally. No, it's that's a real thing.
Beth brought up the library looks like the library from Beauty and the Beast too, which totally does.
It totally does. It reminds me of the library that we never got to see in Avatar: The Last Airbender if it wasn't in like ruins, all the big shelves everywhere, and it was super cool though. I really dug it a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about the scene, honestly. I just was like, okay, he made it there. I'm like you said, you're totally right. He'll get some sort of key information that he'll use to help someone else out later, and I imagine it'll be pretty pivotal information too. Yeah, so we can go ahead and move to darker places, guys. We fought it all season long, but we have to go back to Dorne.
No!
We have to go back to the island?
Yes, to the island of Dorne. Oh, wait, Dorne's not an island. Looking here, luckily we're not in Dorne for very long, and I actually figured out pretty much where... As soon as I saw we were going back to Dorne this week, I was like, I know exactly where Varys is going. And a little bit of that is some inside baseball.
Yeah.
Now, he never properly goes back to... Varys never properly goes to Dorne in the books, but it's pretty clear that the Dornish are rooting for the Targaryens. And although it's a totally different Targaryen that I guess the show's not going to ever bring in,
it's too late.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's way too late. They are. It's pretty known that they're with the Targaryens. So as soon as I saw we're going back to Dorne, I was like, okay. Well, Varys went somewhere, and I was trying to go through places. He's definitely not going to King's Landing. He's not going to the north. Where else is going to go? So he's got to go to Dorne. Now, what I didn't see coming though was I did not expect Lady Tyrell to be there. Now the thing is, the events of the beginning of the episode totally it makes sense why she would be siding with them. Let's just take a moment to think about Lady Tyrell's position here. Her whole family is dead. The Tyrell legacy is dead. Loras Tyrell, Loras Tyrell dead. Marjorie Tyrell dead. That's a lot of dead people, guys. A lot of dead main characters. That's kind of sad, actually. I'm kind of bummed about Marjorie and Loras.
I mean, yeah, it's almost what happened to the Starks in a way. It now happened to it feels like the whole family's just gone. And I'm sure there's some cousins out there or something like that. But yeah, although the major players that we knew are gone, it really sucks about Marjorie. I was a huge fan of her character. I'm really sad to see her go, especially in this way, because it seemed like she had some sort of plan. And it just turns out she ended up being, in a way, setting up Cersei to be the one that killed her. So I'm really sad to see her go, and I really like the Tyrells. However, I didn't necessarily see Lady Tyrell joining the Martells. After seeing everything that happens, it kind of makes sense. She's got to go somewhere, and she was going to want some sort of revenge. And so this is their way of trying to save the Dorne storyline, and it's not that bad of an idea.
It's a decent idea. The thing that I'm think's kind of weird is, didn't the Tyrells have a bigger army than the Lannisters anyway? I feel like she doesn't have to partner with Dorne.
Well, it's not just the Lannister army that they have in King's Landing. They've got like the whole 7 kingdoms at their back. Well, whole 7 kingdoms is a strong word. They have the crown.
Yeah.
So
what kingdoms? Because there's no Dorne. Peter Baelish declared for somebody else. They don't have the North. The Iron Islands sided with Dany. It's literally just the Lannisters, right?
And Lady Olenna just wants, and the thing is, she has no hope for a future for the family left. So naturally, the only thing she wants is vengeance, which they can give her with Daenerys. So yeah, bigger army. Cersei Lannister, she's got her work cut out for her. We'll just put it that way, because yeah, there's a stand chance.
Do you guys remember? I believe Peter Baelish said something about sitting on a throne with ashes. This almost feels like that in a way for Cersei, like she's put herself on the throne, but all it is just death and destruction around her. She doesn't have anything really, as Austin was pointing out, like, it doesn't seem like anyone really supports the crown anymore. So, yeah, I agree. Like, she's made it there, but at what cost? You know?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of her whole thing is she gets what she wants to the destruction of everyone and everything around her. And this is really the culmination of it. I think it will continue for a little bit while longer.
No, she's going to get herself back
What are
into
you
a
gonna
corner
say?
where she has absolutely no allies, and then I'm sorry, the second Daenerys shows up, you're dead. You're dead. Like, you have not a snowball's chance at stopping her.
That applies to anybody, though. No one stops her right now. What do you do? The dragons negate everything right now.
Not even just the dragons. It's the dragons. It's the Dothraki. It's the Unsullied. It's the now new alliances she has with the Tyrells and the Greyjoys. Ooh, yeah.
And Dorne now, and the Tyrells now, like almost all the families that should support the crown almost have all just turned to Dany now. Like, Cersei's pushed them all to Dany, and so Dany has 3 or 4 families supporting her, with two of the maybe greatest warriors on her side as well. I mean, she's set up real nice to come in and just take over.
Yeah, Cersei has no hope at doing anything to inflict any sort of damage. I mean, although I still argue though that ultimately Jaime's going to be the one to pop her in the back. I don't think there's going to be a big war. I think seeing Marjorie and Loras go is sad. Those are 2 really great characters. I mean, especially Loras that we talked about earlier this season. He never really got his proper due. So it was a real bummer to see him go out the way he did. And Marjorie, I mean, God, she was so smart. And she just got... I don't want to say she got outplayed, because Cersei just wasn't even playing the same game, honestly. It was really kind of ridiculous. But yeah, rest in peace, Tyrell family. But speaking of Dany, let's go ahead and head on over to Meereen. And guys, not only were there some big deaths this week, but there was also a breakup, a tragic breakup.
Finally,
looks like her and
Daniel was very jealous of Dario. Apparently,
no, I just never trusted him and I guess it never really played out that I shouldn't have trusted him. I guess, but for some reason, I always had this bad feeling about him.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another weird thing. Let's go back. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the way Dario got in with her in the first place was always extremely weird, and like it was always implied that there was something more going on there, and I guess there wasn't. So, hey, let's just break up. And she says that she's like, yeah, I had a man who absolutely loved me, unapologetically loved me, purely loved me, and I didn't even feel bad about breaking up with him. Man, women are tough.
She's young. She's been young throughout all of this, and I think she's finally starting to become an adult, like truly an adult. I think this is part of her maturation process where she's like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need that type of support. I can handle everything on my own. Like, and truly, she thought that before. I think she can truly handle it on her own. And she's also sought the right advisors finally in Tyrion here, recognizing people for strengths that are actually going to help her.
It was a smart move, especially on paper, and I don't blame her. It was more her reaction that I was like, oh man, cold heart. I mean,
I was just gonna say it's interesting to see her reaction in Dario leaving in comparison to her reaction when she sent Jorah off. Actually, she had a much more emotional response to that than she did to Dario. So that's just interesting how that played out. Like, even though she banished Jorah two or three times. I don't even remember anymore. But when he left, it was a much more emotional reaction. Of course, he was dying in a sense, so there's a little bit more to that. But it's just interesting.
It was an interesting choice too, and we talked about this a little bit in previous weeks. Who she was going to leave behind to help run Meereen. I didn't see Dario as being that guy. I thought it was going to be like Grey Worm Mysandi, but she kind of basically set it up in that Dario's not going to rule anything. He's literally just going to be the muscle behind whoever they elect, essentially, which is an interesting way to tackle that issue. it kind of puts a bit of a ribbon on Marine for now, at least well enough, and we can move on.
I mean, I think if this was the books, there'd be more consequences for it, because I don't see Dario actually sticking out Marine now that he's not bedmates with her. But we're just supposed to buy that he just has this undying loyalty for her, and that's fine. We'll just roll on with it. We don't need to emphasize it or go back to it. I don't think we see Dario again. I do still think we see Jorah again. I don't think we see Dario again, though. I don't think. I mean, especially not leaving Marine. I don't really think there's really a reason to see Dario again.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm glad you brought that up still about the difference between him and Jorah, because I think Jorah, there is the fact of the matter is Dario was always the one getting all the action in bed and got to do all the cool stuff, right? But the loyalty that Jorah had for her ran a lot more deeply, I think. I know Austin's got a grin on his face.
Well, you just said all the cool stuff, like the sex.
No. Like the sex, he got to he got to have all the sex. He got to decapitate dude on horseback this last week. Like he got to do all the cool action bits, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. So versus Jorah, who is more of the advisor role to her. I mean, he did some cool stuff too. Let's not forget the arena. He did some cool stuff. But I feel like the bond the two of them had was a lot deeper than the one she had with Dario, which was more of a, again, surface level, and honestly probably a lot more juvenile, because it was an attractive guy she bedded, but she didn't really care about him that much, clearly. So it was an interesting compare and contrast there. Tyrion, she basically calls Tyrion out and says, "You're terrible at consoling," and he's like, "You're right, I am. But I'll tell you what I do know is that I until I met you, I'd given up belief in anything. All the things I was told I was supposed to buy into, they all came up hollow. But then I met you, and now you are my belief." So really, I thought it was a really moving scene. Honestly, just kind of really cementing the relationship they have, because we haven't had a ton of scenes between the two of them. And then when she pulls out the hand pin and puts it on him and says, "You're the hand of the queen." Holy shit, man! What a scene! What a way to cap that off.
You even see Tyrion almost tear up in a way. You can tell it means a lot to him, and it looks like their relationship is going to be a really strong one. And I'm very excited to. We talked about last season how we were excited to see them paired up, and then, that really didn't happen this season because of everything that happened. So we'll finally actually get to see them together, and that's a super exciting thing. And I think Austin was right earlier when he said she's finally picked a really good advisor, possibly I would believe the best advisor she could have in Westeros. This is someone who lives in Westeros, knows Westeros by the back of his hand, knows exactly what they're getting into. So she couldn't have a better advisor, and so I'm really excited to see their relationship and how it moves forward as they head towards Westeros.
We've been saying this forever. Tyrion is the best advisor you can have. He is like the embodiment of what the Hand of the King is supposed to do, right? So this is just, again, we said it last season when him and Dany paired up. This is a match made in heaven. I know I've had a lot of complaints about Daenerys' decision all through the show, and I think Tyrion is going to be the balance to that. And hopefully she ends up being the good guy. Hopefully she's not the bad guy. There are a lot of theories out there speculating that she's the quote-unquote bad guy. So, but with Tyrion by her side, is that really possible? We'll have to stick around to find out. But let's go ahead and head over north. And we got a scene between Jon and Melisandre where he's kind of reminiscing about his past as a Stark, which was, again, very touching. He's finally reclaimed his home. We finally have the Starks back in Winterfell, reflecting on the family that they lost in a lot of ways. It was all nice and heartwarming until Davos shows up and he's like, "So tell me how you killed her." And basically was able to get Melisandre to confess to burning Shireen last year.
She completely confessed it, I think. It was the way they handled it and and how it was acted was so good, both by the actor who plays Davos and Melisandre. This sequence, this kind of conversation they had was so believable, I thought.
No, this was a great scene. This was a great scene that got undersold because it was, of all the other great scenes in this episode, because I thought this was an excellent scene that just got buried underneath everything else that happened. Because this would be the type of stuff that would highlight an episode, in my opinion. And seeing how Jon kind of weighs it, he sees, oh my God, you did kill somebody. You just confessed to it. Do I really want you on my council? Or, I mean, what kind of poisonous acts are you going to tempt me to do? And then hearing Davos out. But he compromises. He doesn't kill her. He just banishes her.
What do you think Ned would have done in this situation? Is Jon really Ned's son in this? Because I feel like Ned would have beheaded her.
I think he probably would have too.
There was very much an interesting compromise that showed that Jon is not really fully a Stark. He's something a little different.
Yeah, no, he's his own man, and he's still smarter than. I mean, I know we talking about all the dumb stuff he did last week because he did a lot of really dumb stuff. He's still smarter than Ned, I think, and I still think he's probably smarter than Robb. Probably.
Yeah.
So I think this was a wise decision too. I don't think this moment was a time where you have an execution. They just got out of a really bloody battle. People don't want to see that. He needs to be building morale amongst the people he does have and demonstrating what kind of leader he is. So I think it was a good call.
I really liked that we got to see the weight of Melisandre's decision kind of weigh on her. Like, you could definitely see that she was remorseful to an extent. When she says that, I was wrong, and she owns up to it. She admits it, and you can definitely see that weighing on her. And I thought that was nice to see. And I also thought it was interesting. I didn't really expect Davos to ask to execute her. I thought he would just ask to banish her. So it was actually interesting to see that he went that far, in a sense, to ask to execute her. But given the circumstances, it makes sense. He's ready to give up all types of honor in his mind because, as he mentioned, she was like a daughter to him. So, but yeah, it was a really, really, really nice scene. I agree with you, Caleb. It kind of got hidden among everything else, but definitely a highlight.
It was very much a culmination for Melisandre, to your point, Daniel, of the scene that we saw before where she's kind of removing the necklace and she's kind of really feeling the weight of all the things she has done and all the mistakes she has made. This is the scene where she gets called out publicly for the mistakes and for what she promised and what she actually delivered and all the sacrifices, both human and otherwise, that she made along the way. She rides south. I think this is going to have some pretty major consequences for Jon. I think despite, her being who she is and having done what she has done, she was a huge asset to them for many different reasons. I think she's a very old individual. It has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. It could be very, very helpful in a lot of the challenges that Jon's probably going to have to face. So I was definitely sad for Jon's sake that he had to make that decision, but it is what it is.
I think, if anything, he just lets someone with a lot of valuable information go. I think she's going to end up running to Daenerys, which is going to come back to bite Jon in the ass later. Which, again, Lord of Light.
I think that's probably a really, really good prediction.
Again, Lord of Light makes sense. Why not? I mean, and we already saw Tyrion try to use the Red Priestesses to rally the people, so why not use Melisandre for that as well? And she's going to have all sorts of insider information. So, yeah, I don't know if it's as much a loss of it. For me, it's not as much loss of an asset as it is loss of a very valuable bit of information just walked away that she could literally go to anybody. But, we'll see how that plays out. Now, we did get another scene this week where Jon and Sansa talk things out, and thank God they addressed my complaints about last week.
I mean, they kind of glossed over it. They didn't really address it. I was hoping for a bit more conflict here. I thought it was a little disappointing, but they at least did say, hey, I totally messed up there. Sorry about that. A couple thousand people got killed.
I guess Jon was a lot. These people were okay. They're probably smarter than I give them credit for. I didn't expect them to call Baelish's bullshit quite as quickly as they did. Jon automatically doesn't trust him. I was like, oh, I didn't really think he'd have a reason not to trust him, but okay, all right, fine. Anyway, it was a nice.
I think Jon doesn't trust anybody anymore after getting stabbed to death.
He kind of has to trust. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's trying. Hey, Sansa, we have to trust each other. We got to stick together, which is great. I don't want to see if any more of these Starks split up. They are truly morons. We're not splitting it. Do not split. Do not send Sansa on some sort of mission without Jon. Okay, yeah, no more separation.
You think Arya's going to make her way there?
Yeah, why not? Unless unless she's more focused on killing people on her list.
And my Bran's heading south too now, so
they're all getting closer. It looks possible. Mini Stark reunion where they're all a bunch of killers.
Yeah, well, they've teased it plenty of times before, so.
This is the only time it's actually been viable, though. Like, it hasn't really been realistic for, I don't know, like 4 seasons.
Since the Red Wedding, really.
Yeah.
No, there was that time. There was a time
close.
Bran could have gone back with Jon to the wall.
Okay, at the wall, that's true.
And that was a decision that he made at the time to not do that. But we get the official declaration that winter is finally here. Christmas time is here. Da, da, da.
No, Christmas is not here. It's the exact opposite of Christmas.
It's the Grinch.
You guys, listen, this is a happy moment. Christmas is here.
No, the people that, like John says it in the episode, the people that are bringing the storm will kill everybody. Like, no, this is not Christmas time.
They don't
Look, whether it's Christmas or not, you're still gonna have things crawling down your chimney. Basically the same thing.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. There's gonna be White Walkers up in here. Night's King actually Santa Claus on an off year. I don't know what your problem is.
On an off year.
Yeah. No, I think it was nice to finally see the winter is here. Finally, 6 seasons in, winter has officially started in Westeros. Ned Stark was right.
Joke of it. Dad always told me. Yeah, Dad always told me it was coming.
Which that leads us to the best scene of the episode, naturally, in which Sansa is under the tree. I don't know if she's praying, but she's sitting underneath the weirwood tree. And Peter Baelish finally gets a scene. Finally gets a scene. The 4th scene he's been in all season long, where he basically lays his cards on the table. And I thought this was great.
It was also a mistake.
Yes. Yeah, well, he made himself the most vulnerable he's ever been on the show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bless his poor little pedophile heart.
She's a grown woman now.
She's of age now.
She is now. But when these thoughts started forming in his head, I'm pretty sure she was not.
Well, but that's the thing. It was the idea of having a Stark at his side. It's the idea of her. So I don't think the age was ever. I don't think he was ever getting the jollies off to a little girl. It was always knowing that she would grow up, and he wanted to have that woman by his side when he took the throne.
Because she's like Cat. I mean, that's why.
Yeah, it is why. But I still think he retains the crown of creepiest man in Westeros.
He basically says, every time I close my eyes and I imagine a picture, and it's me sitting on the Iron Throne with you by my side. I mean, come on, guys. Isn't that the best picture ever? I mean, even Sansa admits it. It's a pretty picture.
Oh, it's not a pretty picture.
Why not?
I was thinking about it while I was watching it, and we've talked about it in the past. What kind of king would Peter Baelish really be? I honestly think he'd probably be pretty good. I really do. He would probably be a very stern king that's going to keep order, and a lot of people are probably going to dislike him. But he's also going to lead, I think, to a really prosperous kingdom if he were to be able to, bring everybody together and get things going. He's very much like Tywin in a way, where he'd be able to kind of control all little things, keep the pieces together, and really build something. Well, and he's probably one of maybe 3 people in all of Westeros that would be able to do that.
I think so. I think he would do. I actually think he would do a good job. The whole thing with him is it's the evils and atrocities he has to commit to get there that make him the real bad guy. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like Frank Underwood. Again, I'm always making this comparison, but it's like Frank Underwood in House of Cards. Frank Underwood is a monster until he becomes the president, and then he's boring. It's like,
it's true.
Once he's a president, he's actually trying to do good things. And I think
anyone who's going to take the throne has committed lots of evils and atrocities. I mean, realistically, you look at Daenerys. If she takes the throne, for example, she's burned people alive in buildings. She's lit people on fire with dragons. She's done a lot of pretty awful things.
Very true. Very true. Which is why I just think I'm still voting, guys. Baelish Stark 2016. I believe in it.
It's a valid argument. He definitely still has a shot at the throne. Honestly, he's probably the most powerful person in Westeros at this point in time before Dany shows up, basically. But I think he probably has one of the biggest armies out of anybody. He just sided with the North. So he's controlling really like half of the continent at this point.
Well, and that's the thing. He was a little concerned. He wants Sansa to be the figurehead for the Starks, which is why he was very dismayed when they all declared Jon the King of the North. However, that's the thing, though. I guarantee you Baelish could easily broker a deal. Oh, yeah, you be King of the North, and I rule on the Iron Throne with Sansa. Like, it would be very easy for that to happen. Because Jon Snow does not want the throne. I don't think... None of the Starks really want the throne.
I think what'll end up happening here, and since you bring up the whole King of the North thing, I did think it was strange that they all rallied behind Jon, but it makes sense because he was able to win the battle, at least in their eyes. I think this forces Sansa's hand, though, in which she now has to go with Peter Baelish. That's her only play now.
Well, if she wants to retain any form of power, I mean, that's the question she's going to have to. And we don't know. She has to decide. She has to decide that for herself. Does she want the power or not? And that's tempting power. And I'm certain she would love to use it to kind of make a world the way she would rather see it than the world she experienced. Because I still think she's a good person. I think if she resolved power, she would want to make the world better as well. I really do. But the thing with Peter Baelish, though, he did officially declare for the North, though. So he is actually vulnerable, meaning he is officially backed a horse. He is not officially backed any horse on the show ever. He's always playing in the shadows, never officially siding with anybody. He's on everybody's side. But right now, he's not really in a he's in a position where he is now against the throne that is ruled by Cersei at this point, on paper, officially.
Mm-hmm. But it's definitely a calculated move, right?
Oh yeah,
he already recognized the weakness of King's Landing, and he recognizes the strength that the North still could have if they were able to get their act together. It's definitely a calculated move.
I always go back to there's a quote with him between him and Lord Bolton, not Ramsay, his dad, Roose Bolton last season, where he said, he like basically says, remember what happened when the Houses of the North united together? The last time they marched south, they, changed the world of Westeros forever. Yeah, I agree. It is a very calculated move, and I think it is. Last year, I thought it was something he was blowing out of his ass to try and win Roose Bolton's loyalties, but at this point, it looks like he actually believes it. So,
I don't know if I'm as convinced as you guys. I really feel like he made a pretty big mistake in talking about it with Sansa. I think honestly, his biggest mistake is, he was talking about the picture, and it was when he said that he wanted her there with in his picture next to him. I really feel like that is, like I've said this before, I think Sansa is going to be his downfall. I think wanting her in that picture is not good for him. I think that will be, along with the White Walkers not being able, that's something he can't, predict, as well as Dany too. I don't really think he is predicting that as well. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that this is 100% his best move. So, but that's also because he's, like Caleb said, he's finally picking a side, and we've never seen him do that before. So I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to work out well for him anymore.
Well, at a certain point, he doesn't have a choice but to be transparent. What's he going to do? Just hang back? Like I honestly think he had to be transparent with her at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think that this is like, I don't know if he can get. I'm not convinced he can get farther than that because because he finally has to be transparent, and because of that, I think it's eventually, because his whole strength has been that he's never been transparent, and so, and the chaos and like that part of that transparency allowed him to move within the chaos that he talks about, and so it's a lot harder. I think it's a whole lot harder to maneuver that now, and so it's going to be a lot harder for him from this point on. I don't ever see Sansa really siding with him over Jon, I don't think.
I think the only thing that stops Peter Baelish at this point from accomplishing his goals is something that he just never considered, and that's the White Walkers.
Yeah, White Walkers.
I think he let's just from a strategic standpoint, right? If he's going to push south with an army to try to take over King's Landing and eventually like be the ruler, he's got an army coming up from behind him of White Walkers eventually that I think is going to interrupt him, halt him entirely, wipe him out. I don't know. But I think it's something he hasn't really considered as part of his plans yet. He was exposed to it a little bit with Jon Snow, who, in that scene at the end where John's, we have other things we're going to have to fight. I think he's going to learn very quickly about the White Walkers, and we'll probably visit that next season with Peter Baelish, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we've talked a lot about him. That's my fault. I love talking about some Peter Baelish because I think he's such a key player in the whole, the long run.
We haven't talked about him all season, really, and I think he's still been the mastermind around almost all the big moves in the show.
Yeah.
So it deserves a conversation.
Yeah, and I do think he'll be more. I think again, the way the shows came together, we are going to see him a lot more regularly next year, which will be nice. And hopefully, and because of that, hopefully we get some better ideas of exactly what he's thinking. Because this season he's had such little screen time, it's been very hard to get a read on him. Now, elsewhere in the north, we have the Tower of Joy scene. Benjen leaves Bran near a weirwood tree. So Bran goes and crawls up to the tree, and where does he go but back to the Tower of Joy so he could find out what was in the tower. And I'm so glad we went back to this. I was actually slightly concerned that we were just totally going to ditch it altogether and make us wait a little another season. But we didn't. And we got to go, and we get to see what was in the tower, and it was what we suspected, which is Lyanna Stark on her deathbed after she'd given birth to Jon. This is confirmation. There's still a lot of information off the table. And I did feel like they were holding some back just to hold something back, which is a little frustrating. But at least we can finally confirm that Jon Snow is not a Snow. He's still a Stark. And probably a Targaryen. Very likely a Targaryen.
He's definitely a Targaryen.
I mean,
I think that's...
Yes, he's definitely a Targaryen, but...
That's confirmed.
No, it's not confirmed, though. That's the thing. They left that bit of information off the table.
But they didn't, though. Look, if you expected them to just say and, literally spell everything out, I don't think they were ever going to do that. But what they did do is show Lyanna. We knew how she got there. We heard a little bit of the conversation with Ned where she's like, Robert will kill him. And we know the backstory behind that about Robert's rebellion. We've been told that a little bit already. And obviously we know the baby is Jon because of how they cut the scene and everything. Oh, yeah. But I think it's confirmed that he is Targaryen as well, based on the little bit of information we got from the Whispers. And I think the concern about, was she there willingly? Was she not there willingly? That might still be a little fuzzy, but it definitely hints at, with the way she was talking to him and the protection she wanted over Jon and everything, that she was there by choice.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said, for the record. It was mostly the fact that they had the whole whisper something in his ear. Annoying. It's just annoying. I feel like it's a little cheap at this point, but whatever, that's fine. No, I mean, he is essentially a confirmed Targaryen. That would make him the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, which was the Targaryen that started the war when he kidnapped Lyanna Stark, like we talked about earlier this year. And that would actually make Jon Daenerys' nephew. It's not that I was super disappointed. It didn't quite wow me the way I'd hoped it would. Although, to be fair, there was a lot of expectation put on that scene. A lot. It's been something that you've been looking for a long, long, long time.
Yeah, I was actually going to say this was the scene I felt I was a little bit disappointed with. And maybe that's because we've just talked about it so much, this theory and all that kind of stuff. I felt like when it happened, I was like, okay, yeah, Jon doesn't even really doesn't know about it. No one else knows about it. I mean, Bran knows about it now. But so the impact that it will have on the world doesn't feel that big because while the audience knows, no one within the world that really matters at this point right now knows. Until Bran goes and does something about it, that part hasn't happened yet. So for me, I'm just kind of like, okay, but how is that going to change the story? Because it changes Jon's character, yes, but right now it's not. It doesn't affect the world and it doesn't change the story. So for me, I was kind of like, okay, but I want to see how it is going to affect things, basically.
And I think it will, because we were told Bran's heading south of the wall, right? That's why Cold Hands can't go with them because of the runes and the foundation, the magical protection, all of that. So I think it's very safe to assume that Bran's going to reunite in Winterfell. Where else would he go? How Bran chooses, or if he chooses to disclose that information to Jon, that's going to be the question. But there's definitely going to be the opportunity there for Jon to find out. And to your point, that's when we'll really see the impact of this. What does Jon do with this information? How does he react to it? what does the rest of the world do? And do they find out? Is this announced,
Right.
And that's what we're going to see kind of coming up, I think.
And that's the whole. That's really the weight of this mystery. It isn't for us. It's what's interesting about it isn't the mystery itself. It's the impact it's going to have on the characters is really what matters, and that's why it would be nice to see, because the fact that she did that out of choice and love of Rhaegar really does put a different spin on things, and it makes us re-question the entire narrative of the show as an audience and for your characters, like Jon. It changes the way he kind of is going to view himself. He was a love child born who essentially started the revolution. So I'm interested to see what he does and how the news that he's a Targaryen is going to come out. Like, what's that going to be like? What's going to happen if Daenerys finds out about that? I mean, just wow.
They show that scene, and in the scene after, you have the King of the North scene, and they're talking about how they're going to support him because he's Ned Stark's son, and you just found out as the audience member that he's not Ned Stark's son.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of interesting how that played out.
He's got Ned Stark's blood flowing through his veins.
Not really.
Although it does make everyone assumes Bran is dead. If Bran was dead, that would actually make Jon the next heir of the throne, I believe.
That's true, Caleb. Bran is still alive. He could easily come down and claim the throne if he wants it. Although I don't feel like that's what he's after, really.
Oh, no, I don't think Bran wants the throne at all, or Winterfell for that matter. So we've already talked a little bit about the King of the North speech, but is this good news? Do we think it's good? It wasn't good last time.
I mean, I'm indifferent to it. King, whatever. It would have been really interesting to see how Sansa would have ruled things. I'm a little disappointed that didn't happen, but it makes sense how it played out. I just wish we could have seen how Sansa would have handled the situation.
I actually kind of agree with Austin here. It would have been really nice to have Sansa be the figurehead, which is what it looked like they were setting up for. It's obviously really exciting for me as a fan of the Starks to bring that back. And they even said the Red Wedding's been avenged, which I don't know if it's gone that far. But it was really exciting to see that Jon Snow feeling like a part of the family, and they always treated him better than, a typical bastard would have been treated. But it was an exciting scene. And as much as I want to be excited about it, I think there probably is a hint of worry because of this. But it's good. It's really nice for his character, too, I think, for Jon to be called that. He knows that Robb was called that, and so he feels like – and, he's already reminiscing in the earlier parts of the scene about Ned. So, I don't know. I'm excited about it, but there's always that side of me that's like, but last time was bad. It's probably a bad sign again. But I'm trying to ignore that and just be happy.
Yeah, I think it's probably fine. I really do think, though, this is going to drive a wedge between Sansa and Jon more than what we think. We saw the way she looked at Littlefinger, and I think there is a hint of envy there too. By the way, still, so I don't think this is over by any means. This kind of friction between the two of them. I think we're going to see more of that. But well, let's go ahead and kind of close out with the other kind of bookends here. Jaime makes his way back to King's Landing, only to discover that of what Cersei did. His son is dead. The Tyrells are dead. And then Cersei takes official hold of the Iron Throne because apparently she's the only heir left? ?
Well, who else would she? I mean, I guess Gendry, but that's it, right? Is there anyone else who would even exist?
Oh, she wouldn't give that to Gendry. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I don't really know. It's like who takes the throne? Well, I guess it has to be a Cersei, right?
Yeah, that's the only option right now, unless they decide to go a completely different route. But she's obviously the most logical choice from a line of succession standpoint.
Right, because legally she's the only Baratheon left. I mean, the reason Joffrey and Tommen got it was because they were Robert Baratheon's sons. Yeah, Cersei's the only one left, the only Baratheon left standing, which, she identifies as a Lannister, but legally she is a Baratheon.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought it was a really beautifully shot scene. I love the way it was all super dark. We're talking like We're talking like Star Wars Episode 6 when the Emperor walks off his cruiser thing. Like, this is dark. Everything was black and creepy and horror. Yeah, she's evil.
The Lady Macbeth comparison is fantastic, actually. That's really good.
Well, she's Lady Macbeth, except Macbeth is dead, and she has all the power. No, and then we see Jaime walk in, and he's eyeing her, not with good looks, not positive at all. And I just want to put this into perspective, guys. Their son is dead because of her. Jaime knows that. She also did exactly what he killed the Mad King for doing. Like, wanting to do. Like, that's what the Mad King wanted to do, and she actually did it. I think Jaime definitely going to kill her. I think it's gonna echo what he did to the Mad King.
Let's say, yeah, Caleb, I think you're right. I think he definitely saw her and had this feeling of what has she done type of feeling. And so I think that he's not ready to do that yet. But I think after when he talks to her and realizes what's happened, and also, as we've already mentioned, everything she's done up to this point has been for her children, and her children aren't there anymore. So she has, as you said earlier in the podcast, Caleb, she has no humanity left. The one thing that humanized her, they're gone now. So she has hit the point of complete evil, and she has all the power. And so I think that I think that's where it's headed. I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think it might take several episodes of next season to get there, but I think that's where Jaime's path is leading him.
I totally disagree with you guys. Well, totally is kind of a strong way to put it. I agree she's going to die, and I agree Jaime's going to play a role, but she's not going to die by his hands. The way this plays out, I think, Cersei, through sheer ineptitude, backs herself into a corner, has made tons of enemies, and eventually puts herself in a situation where she is in extreme danger and imminent death. At which point, Jaime chooses he can either go save her and help her or not. And I think at that point, rather than him actually literally stabbing her in the back, he's going to choose to let her face the consequences of her own actions. And essentially she kills herself, and Jaime doesn't intervene.
I think he intervenes. He's totally going to kill her. I didn't. So Austin, here's something else we should probably throw out there. Book knowledge. You know that prophecy about how her 3 children were all going to die before her?
Yeah.
There's also a second part of that prophecy that the show decided to, for some reason, remove or leave out, neglected to give us that information. And that is that her younger brother is going to be the death of her. Now,
yeah, and I think that, but it could be interpreted a couple different ways.
Yeah, well,
right?
she thinks it's going to be Tyrion, but I am confident it's Jaime. Jaime is going to kill her.
Well, yeah, but he can be the death of her without literally killing her.
He's going to kill her. If he does not kill her, it'll be a betrayal to his arc in the context of the show. Even he gave an entire monologue in the bathtub of why he killed the Mad King, because the Mad King used wildfire to kill a bunch of innocent people. That's exactly what Cersei did. He broke his own vows to protect innocent people, killing the Mad King. Cersei did the thing the Mad King failed to do because Jaime killed him.
I don't think. I mean, and I already stated this. I don't need to go into it again, but I don't think he will literally do it. I think he will have the option to save her and will choose not to, and therefore indirectly kills her in the same way that she indirectly killed Tommen.
I think you're right, but I think it's a very different scenario with the Mad King. With the Mad King, he prevented it. In this situation, it's already done. Like, he's not saving anybody by killing her, unless he really thinks unless he legitimately thinks she's going to do something like that again. But I think the scenarios are a little bit different.
All right, so that leaves us with the final scene of Dany sailing off with her giant boat army of Tyrells and Greyjoys and Unsullied and Dothraki and dragons.
And Varys, who was in every place, everywhere, all the time. Or he just has a DeLorean.
I mean, DeLoreans are quite popular in Westeros. But no, this is the scene we've been waiting on for, years now. And I'm so glad we got a Marine. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's nice, finally.
Austin, anything I want to add about the last scene?
No.
I mean, your Greyjoys are there, man. You're not even a little bit happy, excited?
It's pretty much what we thought was going to happen, right? There's no new information here. I am excited to see her across the ocean, but it's nothing that we haven't discussed.
The one thing that is interesting about this is Euron. We know Euron was planning on going over there. Is he going to be on the way over there, and they're going to have while they're traveling back to Westeros? Or are they going to go straight to the Iron Islands and settle that score? That's the one. I think one element in here that's kind of interesting.
Where do you think they try to make landfall at?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they go straight to the Iron Islands and try to just get that out of the way. I don't know if they try to go straight to King's Landing. I don't know what's going to happen. And they showed us Euron this season for a reason, so he's got to play somewhere. So I just don't know how that side of things is going to play out.
All right, well, we will have to see in like a year. Oh my God, guys. And now our watch begins because we're going to be waiting at least another year. I'm sure next year it'll be May before the season premieres. It'll be a good while. But hey, that wraps Game of Thrones Season 6. We made it through another one, guys. And I think, like I said, we all said at the top of the show, we all really loved this finale. It was really, really great. And we'll have to see. I really do feel like we're in the home stretch. Honestly, they could probably wrap this up in another season. But I also see how they could break this up into 2 seasons, which is going to be a bummer. So the 13-episode thing makes sense. I feel like they could viably conclude this with, again, both sides. You have the North on one side, and then basically you have the North and the South. We've for by and large, most of the storylines are in 2 different places. All right, well, now our wait begins. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you so much for tuning into the Cast Beyond the Wall with this season, as we've talked about Season 6 every single week. But we aren't done yet. We will be back with you again next week in our Season 6 wrap-up. We're going to kind of talk about the season as a whole. We spent a lot of time talking about the way it concluded this year, but I really do want to take a look at the season as a whole, because it has been a really interesting season, being the first season that's been totally off-book. And sometimes it's been good, sometimes it's been bad, sometimes we disagree, but I think there's a lot to talk about there, and the plan is to have the whole Good Trash gang on the podcast here too, so we should be joined by Dalton and Alex, hopefully, from Good Trash Media, so we can all sit and talk about it together. And then we are also doing, I plan to do a special topics episode of the Cast Beyond the Wall where we talk specifically about women in Game of Thrones. Because I do think it's been very, very interesting this year. I mean, we've talked about it on the show many times over the years about how women are portrayed on this show, and I go back and forth on whether or not it's doing it well or not, because this season's been all about like women taking back. I mean, there's not a single king in Westeros left, really. So obviously women are super crucial, important, but in some other ways, though, they're very objectified. And it's just a really weird dynamic. So we're going to have a special discussion, myself and a couple of other Good Trash folks, and hopefully some special guests to talk about women in Game of Thrones. That'll be the following week. So stay tuned for those episodes. Game of Thrones may be over, but we're not done yet. Say, for instance, you want to keep up with us during the off season. Well, I do a lot of work over at Good Trash Media. I host the podcast Back to the Movies, and you can hear all of our other guests like Alex and Dalton on a variety of podcasts, including the Good Trash Genre Cast, every single week, year-round, if you want to hear us talk more about movies and get more analytical about movies over there. So we'd love for you to keep up with us. Head on over to facebook.com/goodtrashmedia. If you want to like and give our page on Facebook a like, and feel free to comment about Game of Thrones anytime during the year, because we would love to talk about it anytime. And also, you can hit us up on good_trash on the Twitter if you want to tweet at us your thoughts about Game of Thrones. And lastly, guys, we have only been able to do this show because of contributions from listeners like you. So if you've liked what we've done this season and you want to see us do the Cast Beyond the Wall again next year, we really, really need your support. So if you could, just head on over to patreon.com/GTM and consider giving us some money so that we can continue to do this show in the future. It helps us out with production cost, equipment, and the time it does take to put the show together, because it does take a fair amount of time to get everything rolling here. So if you guys could consider even giving as little as $1 a month, it would really, really help out. We'd love for you to help us out that way. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again next week to talk about Season 6 when we go Beyond the Wall.